Good morning, and hey now, PASW staff, clients, friends joining us for a lovely Tuesday morning. Welcome. Yesterday we looked at The Godfather and Coppola's film and Nina Rota's score, and your film scoring assignment for that's due today. So get that into me by today, and we'll see the results for Friday. Today we're going to class it up. We're going to get a little sophisticated, and we're going to look at one of the most famous songwriters and composers of the 20th century. We're going to look at the lovely gentleman, Cole Porter.
All alone, no chaperone can get our number. The world's in slumber, let's misbehave. There's something wild about you, child, that's so contagious. Let's be outrageous, let's misbehave.
There are way too many songs to even talk about with Cole Porter. If you pick up any Frank Sinatra album, Ella Fitzgerald album, Sammy Davis Jr. album, you're going to get one or more songs by Cole Porter. And this guy was interesting, not because, a big reason was because he also wrote his own lyrics. Just, let's get a timeline here, because we're just floating here. So, born in 1891, and dies in 1964. So dies in 73. So lives, way longer, probably double what George Gershwin did. Let's look at the timeline. Gershwin's there and Richard Rodgers is there. So he's a little bit before these guys, even though they're writing by the 1920s, 30s, 40s, they're writing for Broadway. And when I say Broadway, of course, we mean Broadway in New York, not Broadway in, Koreatown. So he's born in Indiana. So let's go over there. I mean, look at this farm he's born on. His grandfather was considered the wealthiest man in Indiana. So Cole Porter grew up with a lavish lifestyle. He was the only child, very close to his mom. His mom doted on him. His father played piano and was a singer, but he didn't have a close relationship with him. But he did with his mom and starts piano lessons, violin lessons around age 6. And by the time he's 10, writes his first opera. So very precocious, and goes to Yale and majors in English and minors in music, and writes about 300 songs while he's in college at Yale. A lot of them are fight songs. I think some songs the school still uses that he wrote lyrics and music to. And then he goes to Harvard and Harvard Law School, but it transfers to music, to the music department to study counterpoint and classical music. Doesn't become a lawyer, even though his parents want him to. And then after that, he goes to Paris. And what better place to be in the 1920s than the age of beauty in Paris? And this is where he meets his wife. And it's pretty, it's known that he was a homosexual. And back then you had to keep that private. So she was a beard, even though they had a pretty... Well, they had a good understanding of the arrangement. She was also super wealthy. So, I mean, he never really worried about money because his grandfather gave him a bunch of money. And then when his wife died, he inherited the money. So he lived a very glamorous lifestyle in Paris and then at the Waldorf. Mostly lived there in New York. And after Paris, he's a socialite there. He's hanging out, partying. And when he comes back to Broadway in New York, and he's kind of like Gershwin. They're New York composers. They make you want to go to New York with their lyrics, with their songs. There's something romantic about the glitz of Broadway in New York in the 20s and 30s with that Art Deco style. And he starts writing songs for shows. And like other composers, we don't really remember the names of the shows. I mean, some of us do. I don't. But we remember the songs from the shows. So the shows were merely just a vehicle for these great songs. And in fact, I think he confused some of the playwrights and some of the directors and producers of some of these Broadway shows because he wouldn't write around the story sometimes, or he would kind of just throw in songs randomly that he thought were really good songs and that would confuse the plot line or something like that. He wasn't a conventional writing style, and I think that confused everybody. But when you look at some of the sophistication of his lyric writing, it's really filled with double entendres. I mean, with a song like "Let's Do It," that's going to raise some eyebrows. But then he says, "Let's fall in love," in the same sentence, so that's okay. But we sort of know what he's talking about. So he's writing these great songs. I mean, there's too many to name. And then in 1937, he has an accident, and he becomes disabled. He's horseback riding, and the horse falls on both of his legs, crushes both of them, and he has to have one of his legs amputated. So this, he was in terrible pain, and but then he wrote some of the best songs after this. I mean, this didn't stifle his creativity or hinder it at all. I mean, probably his biggest show that he wrote was "Kiss Me, Kate," which came out in 1948. So about 10 years later. So he's prolific and still writing, again, words and music to these great tunes. So how he writes a song, he talks about, he would begin with the song title, and that would fit maybe loosely the plot of what's going on in the show, and then he would find the melody. And then later he would fit words to that melody, okay? And then he would begin with the last line and then work backwards. So this is his songwriting process. One of the songs we're going to look at, because I want to show you how he's different, just as one example, than Richard Rodgers. We're going to look at two songs that came out the same year, in 1932. So the Cole Porter song I want to look at is "Night and Day," and that was written for The Gay Divorcee, a famous movie with Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. Let's just take a look at the wonderful scene from that movie.
Night and day, night and day, under the hide of me, there's such a hungry yearning burning inside of me. And its torment won't be through till you let me spend my life making love to you day and night, night and day.
It's glamorous, right? It makes you want to be a part of this high society and just sophisticated. I mean, it's just such a romantic view of the world. And okay, so his harmonic structure is different. If we just look at the first page, sheet music page of Night and Day, this song's in C major, but what chord does it start with? It starts with A flat major 7. Already that's that's usually not how you start a song. If the song's in C, usually your first chord is C for the most part. He's starting in A flat, and then he's going to resolve it to C a few bars later. People do that now all the time, but of course in the 30s for Broadway songwriting, this was very different. And if we juxtapose that with Richard Rodgers' tune, "Isn't It Romantic?" I love this song, so I'm not comparing it. Well, I am comparing it. I'm not saying one's better. Look at this. Mostly 4-bar phrases, 8-bar phrases. It starts in E flat major, which is the root. So Cole Porter's writing in a kind of a freer style, but in a style that's very singable. I mean, these melodies and lyrics are still being used and sung all the time. Another interesting thing, and this is what he told Richard Rodgers, is that he's one of the only Gentiles working on Broadway. So he's not Jewish. Richard Rodgers, George Gershwin, Irving Berlin, all these songwriters were Jewish songwriters. And he told Richard Rodgers in 1926, he said, in order for me to write hit songs, I'll write Jewish tunes. And we don't know if that's serious or if that's a joke or if that's whatever, but it's interesting that he's kind of this outsider in a way. He's gay, he's rich, He's not Jewish, yet his songs are fitting in perfectly with the style. And it's not so much that the songs were Jewish songs. They weren't at all. If anything, that was hidden. And it's not like the composers thought of themselves necessarily as writing Jewish music, but the Broadway sound, mostly all composed of Jewish immigrants, which is so cool. And Cole Porter's there as kind of this outsider writing other songs, but it's all part of the American Songbook, right? I mean, I know you've heard these songs that we're playing, and it's just so fun. I mean, his music is so singable. You know, we talked about Lionel Bart's Oliver a long time ago, but remember what was so great about those songs? That they're singable. And the fact that Cole Porter wrote his own lyrics with these, it makes it truly original, genius songwriter and thinker. So that's Cole Porter. Hope you enjoyed it. One of my favorite composers. And we're going to have a great week, so I look forward to so much fun. So I will see you tomorrow.